What's up, guys? This is Chris with Wiseman Custom Resin Works. Welcome back to our channel. We just wanted to do another video, just a real quick video again of smaller molds. Like I said in the last video, we're a little new to the smaller pours. We're definitely more used to doing the bigger pours, the resin rivers, coffee tables, end tables, those sort of things. So we're just kind of trying to branch out. We've had a lot of requests for some custom orders for smaller stuff, like what you see here, like the coasters, family, home, love, those sort of things with the lights in them. We're going to be doing these. We're also going to start doing the the night lamp or night lights. I'm sorry, those sort of things. So for this, obviously we don't want to use our top dollar resin that we usually use when we're doing our river pours. So what we're doing, we're kind of experimenting here, just trying to figure out what's good for cheap resin and the cheaper materials. So what we did, we went on Amazon. Obviously, it's going to be the cheapest way. Just found a couple of different things. So for this pour, we're going to be doing the Sig Wong epoxy resin. So just a real simple 1-to-1 ratio. It's fairly cheap. It's only $16.99 or $17.99. I can't remember. It's one of the two. But for 19.1 ounces, other than that, that's going to be the resin we're going to use for this pour. And then for our pigments, this one here, this one was actually fairly cheap as well. You get 16 different colors. They actually colored out pretty good, as you can see in our last video. If you haven't watched it, then definitely you're going to want to check that out. That's for our home video pour. That'll show you kind of what that looks like. You can even see it here as it's curing. It definitely has pretty good pigment. We didn't pour a whole lot in it. We kind of wanted a more see-through type of look. So we didn't use a whole lot of pigment. Now, for this video, we're going to be doing our love sign. We've got some light strung through it as well. It's just a regular white light. So for this, for those of you that don't know, that are tuning in just to kind of get a feel for resin, just kind of watching some videos so you can learn some more. What we're going to do in order to get started, we're going to go ahead and measure out our resin. We're going to be using two different colors for this. We're going to use like a pink, and then we're going to use a red, which is right here. Here's going to be our two colors. Now for this, we're going to mix them two different ways, and then we're going to mix up or pour them in two different ways as well. I'm not too familiar with this, like I said, with this resin or with this pigment here. So since I'm a little new to both, I'm kind of anxious to see how it's going to come out. Like I said, this is really the first time I've used either of these colors. When I made my other video to make the home sign, that was actually the very first time that I've used this type of pigment. And now as far as the resin, I've actually used the Sig Wong. I've used that just a couple of times. A couple of small things, just some little small pendants, just to see what it would come out like before I did anything big. And then, as I showed you guys earlier, I did do a little small thing just to see some scrap wood that I had. Obviously I didn't finish it. I just wanted to see what the the pigments and stuff would come out like. This actually was pretty good. I like the blue in it, and the resin actually held pretty sturdy. It's obviously not going to be something that I'm going to finish to sell at all. That's just kind of something that I was going off of, just to get a pretty good idea of of what the resin was like, and if it was even good enough to be used for anything like that, and try to see what the best use for that particular resin is. Because obviously, like I said earlier, I don't want to spend a whole boatload of money on a bunch of resin that I'm just doing small pours with. I saved the boatload of money for the bigger pours. So the more expensive resin obviously is going to go on that. Obviously we want to make these with quality as well. They are going to customers, which obviously the ones that I'm making here and now, and while I'm experimenting, unless they come out just flawless, then we're not going to be giving them out to any customers. Obviously, we want to make sure that our products come out with quality. So unless they come out completely clear and actually sellable, then we won't be giving them out. Or maybe we'll offer them out to somebody, just as, hey, you bought a home sign. Here, we were experimenting with this one, maybe kind of like a 2-for-1 type of thing, let our customer know, hey, it's not perfect, but, you can definitely have it for free. It's got lights and everything, and, I can't imagine it's going to come out but so bad, and actually, judging by the way it's drying, it actually looks like it's drying fairly decent. It doesn't look bad in that sense at all. So I'm hoping it's going to come out pretty good. But other than that, in case you guys don't know, in order to get the resin done, to be able to get the even mixture, what we're going to do, we're going to use our digital scale. You can pick these up anywhere, as far as like online. Walmart does sell them. They're usually over in the like pots and pans and stuff like that. And then you can also pick it up at any smoke shop. You can also order it from online. There's a couple of different places. It just all depends on your preference and where you'd like to go and how fast you need it. Obviously, if you need it now, then I would recommend either your local smoke shop or trying Walmart. But basically what we want to do, you want to put your cup up there before you turn it on, so that way it'll be zeroed out. Put your cup up there, turn it on, and then you're going to want to measure the resin part first. And that way you can get an even number, or an even measurement, I'm sorry. So you want to measure this to whatever number you want it to be at, which in our case we're just going to do right about 25 and 25. Because we are going to be doing 2 different colors here, so we don't want to overdo it with one. I always recommend pouring a tad bit more than what you need, just in case you got to touch up anything, while you're going through it, especially with these types of fairy lights. They tend to want to come up out of the resin here and there. I don't know if anyone else has had problems with that. Or if it's just me or us. Like I said, we're a little new to the smaller pours, so the fairy lights are a little new to us as well. We haven't really done too much with them. This is kind of actually one of the first pours that we've done with them today. So it's a little new to us as well. So if anybody has any advice for us for those, we're always open and always welcoming advice or anything from anybody else. Nobody knows everything. Other than that, we're gonna look here. We actually went over a little bit by just a 0.4, so we're gonna do 25.4 of resin. So we're going to match that with the hardener, and we're going to do 25.4 of hardener. So what you want to do, you're going to want to hit tar. That's going to bring you back to a 0, and that way you can start at 0 to be able to get back to it. So we're going to do 25.4 of hardener, and then we will have an exact even amount mixture, and that way we're not guessing, we're not uneven on the table. There's really nothing standing in our way, making sure that we're off at all. That way we get a good even mix, and that way everything's proper, and that way we won't have any troubles with it hardening or anything like that. Because obviously if you got an even mix, then it's going to harden properly. Some resins are a tad bit different. This resin here, the silicone resin, is a 1-to-1 ratio, which is actually pretty simple. Just basically if you put 20 in of hardener or resin, then you want to match that with the hardener and do the exact same. I usually end up with a drop more of hardener than I do of resin. It's not that big of a deal as long as it's only like a point or two. In this case, I did 25.4 of resin, and it ended up with 25.6 of hardener. That's not too bad. It actually might not be bad at all, because it may balance itself out. And the worst that'll happen is it's going to be a little bit thicker, and it'll just harden up a tad bit quicker, and maybe harden a little bit more. But that's never bad. You obviously don't want to go too extreme, and you don't want to do too much more than what you got for resin. A point, 2 points, that's not a big deal. Obviously that's not gonna make or break anything. The good thing about the epoxy resin from Sigwong, it does have the foam, I guess you would call it foam blocker or whatever you want to call it. It basically takes care of its own foam, and it's supposed to take care of its own bubbles as well. So as it hardens, it's supposed to pop its own bubbles and help kind of push those out of there. I haven't really had much of a problem with it. Like I said, today is really the first pour in any type of molds. Now the other piece that I did, like I showed you a little bit ago, that one was the just some extra wood we had laying around, and honestly, all I did, I threw some plexiglass on each side of it, mixed a little bit up, and ran it down ran it down as a resin river, and that actually came out pretty good for me. It did do like it said it was going to do on the box. The foam did go away. Obviously, it was only a smaller pour, so it didn't have a lot of foam, but what was there did end up going away. So that's always a good thing. So if you're looking for some cheap resin, it's actually pretty decent. As far as I can tell, the Sigwong works pretty good. Sigwong, I'm sorry. Now I'm going to be doing a little bit more experimenting with a few different brands. And I'll definitely keep you guys updated. Along the way, I'm going to be making the videos. And by the way, if you haven't already, then, like, comment, and subscribe. It's always nice. Let us know, feel free to comment if you've got any suggestions. If you see me doing anything that you might recommend me do differently, then, I'm always open to suggestions on new ways, and, everybody's got their own way. I guess when it comes to resin, there isn't but so many different ways, but, you might know something that I don't, and I might know something you don't. So, it's always nice to to know if anyone else has got a different way. But other than that, if you're new to it, just so you know, you're gonna want to do, you're gonna want to mix it around for right about 3 to 5 minutes. You're gonna want to get all the bubbles out of it, and just make sure that it's mixed up pretty good. You know, because you definitely don't want to undermix the you know, the resin and the hardener. You want to make sure you got a good even mix on them, and that's also going to help you cure. If obviously if you don't mix it up very good, then when it goes to cure, it's not going to cure the way it's supposed to. And you always want to make sure that you scrape the bottom and that you scrape the sides, and that'll ensure that you got all of it, and that way you're not leaving some behind at all. Now they do sell little small mixers. I actually had one, or actually I had two of them, and I wore them all out. So I'm waiting on another one to come in, but as soon as it gets here, I'll be using that. Basically what you do, you just put it in there, and it just mixes it up for you, so you don't have to worry about it. That way you get a good even mix. You just spend about, 3-4 minutes, same time you would by hand. The only difference is it's doing it for you, which is definitely going to mix up a tad bit better. But, sometimes, mixing by hand's a bit better anyways. I've had people tell me that they prefer to mix it by hand just because they can get a better thorough mix on it. But everybody's got their own ways, and everybody's different. So whatever, it's, if you're new to it, you just gotta find what works for you, and roll with it. I'm gonna pause the video here while I get this done, and I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but usually with the bubbles that kind of pop up in there, they'll usually pop by themselves. You pop them up, and then they'll usually go away. I'm gonna pause this here for a second while I get this mixed up. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and add in some of the pigment so you guys can see that. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna do 2 small drops of it, and see where that gets us. 1, 2. Just gonna do that and see how far that gets us. This is a great pigment, guys. It definitely comes out good. We'll see what the finished product looks like, but as far as I can see, it's definitely gonna be some good, fairly cheap pigment. Like I said, it was only like 13 bucks. Well, it was 12. I think it was like $12.99 for 16 of them. And then they also have the bigger packages, of course, with the more in it, for a tad bit more money, of course. But 16 for what we're doing here with just the smaller pours. That's kind of all we need. Like I said, we with doing the smaller ones like this, we definitely don't want to use our top of the line stuff, because obviously, we're paying, $100 and some dollars, almost $200 for a gallon, a gallon of resin and hardener, compared to spending, like I said here, for 19.2 or 0.1 gallon or 0.1 ounces, I'm sorry, you get for like 17 or 18 bucks, and then if you got Prime like I do, then shipping's free, so that kind of works out for you, and it definitely makes it a bit cheaper, and then you use some cheaper pigment. But even though it's cheaper, it definitely works out for you as well, because sometimes cheaper is still just as good. It's not just because it's cheap doesn't mean that it's bad. Now, I'm not saying that all of them aren't bad, because there is some that are. I have seen some people give reviews about them, and say that they just weren't worth a crap. You know, so everybody's different. Everybody's got what they like. You know, some people like different resins that I don't like. You know, so it all depends. And I'm actually gonna drop another drop of red in here just because it looks a little pink, I think. So I'm gonna drop 2 more drops. Just because our secondary color is actually gonna be pink. So if we, you know, if I got this not so red, then obviously you're not gonna be able to tell for the secondary color. So I'm just gonna mix that in. And you always want to make sure when you're mixing in your pigment, you always want to make sure that you mix in the pigment really, really good. You don't want it to not be mixed in good. It's kind of like when you're mixing the resin and hardener. You know, you want to get a good even mix on it. That way your color's even, and you know, that way you've got no issues with it. So guys, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and I'm going to go ahead and just mix up my pink, my pink side of resin. I'm literally going to do the same process that I did with this one. I'm just going to put it here on the digital scale, and I'm going to go to 25 hardener and 25 resin. I'm going to stir it all up, and then I'm going to mix in the pigment. So when I come back, we'll have that done, and that way you guys don't have to sit here and watch me mix for 10 minutes. Alright guys, so we got our resin mixed up. We got our pink. It actually came out pretty good, like that. I actually only used, I believe 2 drops, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, I'm sorry, 3. 2 was just a tiny bit too light. But I did very, 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 very small drops. You know, so that's probably why. Now what I'm doing here, I'm just kind of letting it mix in. With the resin like this, because it defoams itself and it pops the bubbles by itself. So what you do is you let it sit for about 10 minutes or so. And throughout that 10 to 15, give or take, sometimes a little bit more. You know, but as you're doing it, you just kind of let it sit, and as it's setting, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the bubbles will rise to the top and they'll pop by themselves. You know, so you just want to let it set for a little bit, and as it's setting, you just want to constantly stir it every couple of seconds. And by doing that, that'll allow the bubbles all to escape. That way you get a clear pour. You know, that way you don't have to worry about any type of bubbles coming through in your products. You know, that way in your finish will be fine with no bubbles. You know, that way it doesn't look all hazy or anything like that. Now this red one here looks like it needs a little bit longer. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me see if I can show you. Watch this. Once I mix it up, mix it all around, and then it'll come up like over there. See all the big bubbles, and they pop by themselves. So see, once they get up to the top, they get up to the surface, and they literally just pop themselves. That's what you want. Once it does that, it won't be inside your pour at that point, which is always great. So because this defoams itself, you know, you just give it a little bit, it'll thicken up a tiny bit, but as it does it, you just want to keep stirring and stirring and stirring and stirring, and you know, as you're stirring it, you can see that there. You just want the bubbles they'll all come up and they will go right away once you stir it. They'll pop themselves, like, see that? And that's exactly what you guys want. That way it gets all the bubbles out of it. And that's with no heat or anything like that. That's literally just letting it sit and stirring it every so often and letting it do its own thing. And that's what you want. You know, you got about a 45-minute work time with this before it starts getting too crazy. So once you stir it around, I mean, I've let it sit as long as 20 minutes, you know. Definitely the more bubbles you get out, the better it's going to be for you. You know, so it's all on preference. You know, you can spend 5 minutes doing it, or, you know, you can spend 20 minutes doing it and making sure that you got every one of them, or at least, you know, the vast majority of them. You know, because obviously if you've got the more of them, then the better your finished product's gonna be when it comes out. We're gonna get started here with the red one. We're gonna kind of start pouring here just a little. Alright, so once we got some of that poured in there, now we're gonna jump over here and grab our pink. And we're just gonna throw some pink in there with it. Once we get some nice layer of pink down in there, gonna jump back over here and grab our red again. And we're just gonna go back over it with one more thin layer of red. And once we got that done, we're gonna do another one of the pink. Actually, we're gonna kind of let it foam out for a second here. We're just gonna kind of let it foam out so it can kind of get the, you know, some of that foam off of it there. Try to lower it down a little bit more so you guys can see. See how it's kind of foaming up a little. We're gonna let some of that foam go away. We might try to help it a tad bit with the heat gun. Not much, just a little though. Because it is self-foaming or self-defoaming, you don't want to hit it with a whole lot of heat. Just a little, just enough. And then we're gonna hit it back with the pink again. Alright, now that we've got that, now we're gonna come back with the red for one final of the red. We want to make sure we get the mold pretty much almost to the top. Now it doesn't have to be all the way to the top, but you definitely want to make sure that you get the you know, your light's covered, anything else that you got inside it, whether you put flowers or lights or whatever the case is. But you definitely want to make sure that you got it all covered up in there. You want to try to get as close to the top as possible without going over the top. And I kind of let this one set for a little while, so it's a little bit thicker, which it's not much of a problem. It doesn't spread out as good as it should. I don't know what you guys got for your stuff there, but I know with me and anything that I have here extra, I always just tip into something. I've got a mold here that just kind of catches all my leftovers. That way I don't waste any, and then eventually once it's done, I'll have a really cool piece there with with all kinds of different colors in it. I try not to mix up too much more, but like I said, if I do, then I just throw it into the other mold, and that mold just kind of collects any extra, and then I just go from there with it. It makes a real cool, unique piece. Something that you're not going to be able to recreate. But it definitely comes out pretty cool. Looks like that's about all I need in here, so I'm going to go ahead and get this poured over here into the other mold here. And I would recommend anybody that's just starting out, I would definitely recommend you getting some type of mold that you could definitely do this with as well. It avoids you losing any, because then any resin that you mix up is going to something, and it's always pretty cool whenever you could just mix a bunch of colors together. Alright guys, I hope you liked the video today. If you got any questions, please comment. Other than that, please like, comment, subscribe, and check us out another day for some more videos. Thank you.